Hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How do I wear this? Interesting. Hello? Can everyone hear me? Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Are we ready to start or should we wait a few more minutes? Is everyone done with their salah? I think we have a few younger kids than we need. Okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. There is babysitting upstairs, right? So if some of the kids might be too young. I think you guys might be too young for the presentation. Uh-oh. I'm sorry. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Sadaf Patel. This is Sami, Khaleeq, and we're here to talk about digital dangers like cyberbullying, grooming, gaming, all of that kind of stuff. So why do you think that it's important for us to talk about these things? Anybody? Anybody? Yes. Exactly. It's there, it's prevalent. And even though we might think that, oh, this isn't happening in the Muslim community, it is. And it can cause death because there's a lot of suicides that happen because of cyberbullying too. But before I get ahead of myself, I want to first talk a little bit about social media, right? So the things that we're gonna talk about are body image, cyberbullying, cyber grooming. Let me come out of here. Game-based radicalization, sexting and sextortion, human and cyber trafficking. Now, we might want to pull all of this under the rug, but what it's doing is it's causing danger to our families. And that's why it's very important to talk about it. Most of us don't understand what our kids go through. Can you go to the next slide? What our kids go through in terms of self-esteem and body image. Because of social media, who over here is on social media? Any one platform at least? Almost everybody, right? All of us are. If we're not on there, at least our children are on there. So it's something we can't escape from. But look at what happens. We compare ourselves to unrealistic expectations. Everybody that's posting on social media is posting what? They're posting their best self. They're posting themselves with filters. They're posting their best holidays, everything good that's happening. Does anybody post something bad that's happening in their day? So our children are left with comparing themselves to things that are impossible to emulate. And so what happens to them? Their self-esteem goes really down. They don't believe in themselves, they don't think they're good enough, and that leaves them vulnerable to attack. Okay, so do you understand how many kids are here? I see a few, okay? How many of you post things online and wait to see how many people liked it? You can be honest here, okay? A lot of us do that, even though we're not gonna admit it, but a lot of us look to see how many people liked it. And if not enough people like it, we take it off. Maybe there is something wrong with it. Or we have somebody check our pictures. Is this good enough to post online? We're constantly worrying about what other people are thinking. And this is harmful because there's so many people online. And if we're learning from their feedback, if we're listening to their feedback, what's gonna happen? A lot of those people don't even know us, and they can post anything they want. Because what's different from bullying and cyberbullying is the fact that it's not in person. It's online. So it's not at lunch or before when we were growing up, if somebody was bullying us, our kids can just parents would just keep us at home. That's okay, right? But now it can be 24/7. People can say anything they want. And so when you learn to judge themselves according to feedback from people that they barely know, what's gonna happen? Not everybody's gonna be supportive. People can be very mean. especially when they don't have to see your reaction. They don't have to know the limits that they have crossed, what that has caused. They don't know the repercussions of what they've said. And so what happens? They go really low in their self-esteem, and we have had cases in the Muslim community as well that have committed suicide. Okay, so, there's body image versus self-image. Body image is when someone perceives their body and assumes others perceive them that way. You will see a lot of teenagers have self-image problems and body image problems. They believe the idea of conception or what they think of themselves. And it's caused by what? What people that they barely know are saying about themselves online. And it can be positive or negative built up over time. So it's very, very crucial for us to understand what our children are thinking of themselves, what they're posting. How many of you have sat down and put digital boundaries on your kids? Like ask them, okay, what platforms are you on? What's going on? I want to be able to see it. Or how many of you check their social media? Next. Anybody? Yes. Okay. So all the kids raise their hands. Okay, so look at this, something that's a post online. Somebody's excited about a new In-N-Out opening of, opening. Oh my God, you're gonna eat that? Don't you need to lose weight? One person puts that, and then people follow. You're so fat, you're gonna need 3 of those to fill your stomach. It goes on and on and on. And what happens? They don't even realize how much it's hurting that person. And I have seen this time and again. I have 2 adult children, and while they were growing up, all of this has happened to them and their friends. And it is detrimental, so detrimental to their self-esteem. So what is cyberbullying? Can anybody tell me what cyberbullying is? Anyone? Come on, you guys. This is an interactive session so that each of us can learn something today. It's not for you to sit here and just listen to me and be like, oh, okay, check mark. I listened to a lecture in the masjid. No, it's for us to understand and actually make a difference in our families. So can anybody tell me what cyberbullying is? Yes. Being mean to people online. Perfect. A big round of applause for her. What's your name? Good job. Exactly, that's what it is. It's being mean to people, yes. Yes, when someone comments something mean, right? Doesn't that happen all the time? It does. And we don't even realize the effect that it's having. Let me tell you a story, and all of these stories are true stories with things changed up, obviously, names for privacy. So Hamad was a 15-year-old high school sophomore, a talented athlete and popular among his peers. But recently, he became a target of severe cyberbullying. The bullying started with mean comments on his social media posts and has escalated to threats of physical harm and the sharing of edited, embarrassing photos. Hamad is overwhelmed and starts to show signs of depression. His grades are slipping, and he is withdrawing from his favorite activities. He has not told his parents about the bullying, fearing that it might make things worse. How many of you do that? You don't tell your parents because you know that it might make things worse, right? You don't want to admit it now because your parents are here, but this happens all the time. Why do you think our children don't tell us things? Why do our children not tell us things? Yes? Yes. And do we react in a negative way? Many times we do. I remember a friend of mine, her daughter was being bullied in school. And she was being bullied online because she was a very smart child. And somebody else's mom had compared her to them, so they started getting jealous and they started posting all this stuff about her. So when she was really sad, she went to her mom and said, so-and-so is saying mean things to me. And her mom was like, well, you must have done something too. Why? She's such a good girl. Why would she say something bad to you? Just forget it. It's okay, not a big deal. Just be nice to her and she'll stop. She didn't stop. And it came to the point where that girl had a major depressive disorder. Because we take things very lightly. And sometimes, the way we as parents react has to change. We have to make a comforting environment, right? Because what we don't understand is now what our children face every single day is horrendous sometimes. They are constantly facing so many different things. Traditional bullying was face-to-face. You had a safe space, which was your home. The bully was easily identifiable. It was limited, right? Now, it can be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I know kids that are being cyberbullied that check in look at the phone in the morning. What else have people said about me? Or they completely self-isolate themselves because they don't know what to do. Because guess what? People they don't even know are saying things about them. It can be anonymous, right? What constitutes cyberbullying? Is it just like on Facebook? Where else can it be? Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. Where else? On your cell phone? Have you ever had a group of friends who had a group text and they deleted you from it? Or they excluded you from it? They made you feel like you weren't good enough? Or that just suddenly stopped being your friend? It happens all the time in middle school. There was the story of Amanda Todd, who was 13 years old, and some pictures of her that were not appropriate were leaked online by somebody who she thought she loved. And what happened? People started shaming her for it, blaming her for it, and she ended up killing herself. And this is very common. 6 in 10 children, teenagers, adolescents go through cyberbullying. And only 1 in 10 actually tell their parents. Isn't that such a low number? So parents, tell me, if you figured out something from Hamad's story, right? That he was going through, got into depression, he came and told you guys, what would you do? As a parent, if a child comes to you and tells you, this is what I'm going through, or people are saying mean things about me, how would you handle it? Anybody? Dads, moms? Can anybody tell me? Yes. You would listen? Yes. Give them a safe space to talk about what's happening. Believe in them, right? What else can you do? Yes. Validate her concerns, right? Understand what she's going through. And then see, what do you need to do? Is it something that's really affecting? Because what does it do? It affects your grades. It affects your how you act in social situations. You start becoming isolated, right? So you have to see, is it something that we need to talk to the school about? And whatever you're doing, it has to be private. You have to make sure that your child knows that the whole world is not going to know that she went and tattle-told or he went and tattle-told to his parents. So what do you need to do? You need to make sure that either you talk to the school counselor or you figure out how you can deal with this. Sometimes parents go to other parents that, you know what, this is what I've heard. You don't need to talk to your child about it right now. Don't let them know that I told you, but this is what's going on. Because it takes a village to raise children. And we need to be able to understand that our children can be bullies too. And what happens when, so this is the biggest thing. I know that a lot of our friends don't tell their friend anything about the child. They've seen it, they know that they're like this, but they don't want to tell them. Why? Because they feel like the person is not going to take it nicely. If you hear something bad about your child, what do? You react. No, that's not true. Your child probably does 10 times worse. But what we should, and what do we do when we act like that? We are creating more bullies. What we need to do is sit down and understand why our child did that. What is he learning or what is she learning to make him do this kind of behavior? And try to teach them empathy and kindness, right? These are opportunities for us to improve our children. Not to say, no, my child can never do no wrong. Because they can. And when you find out yourself, most of the time it's too late. So what are the top? You harass them, which has a big effect on mental health. You publicly humiliate them. Cyber stalking through online platforms. Frapping, which is somebody hacks your account and impersonates you and then sends everybody messages in your name. There's fake profiles, which is like anonymous bullying. And then giving out cruel information online, damaging images, which has really happened to a lot of high school Muslim girls. Trickery, false security to gain information, trolling, provoking a response, and catfishing, which is stealing online identity to create a different persona. So I have a very good example of catfishing. I had a friend who, her daughter was actually 13 years old, And she was being catfished by a 65-year-old person who was impersonating as somebody, a high school senior in her high school. And somehow they had gotten known that this was a high school senior. They had his profile picture, and he was sending her all these messages. So she sat behind and watched what was happening. And the 13-year-old, the 60-year-old man came there. And thank God the mom was still there, and she was able to take the 13-year-old away from this and get him arrested. But these are real situations, and we cannot have our kids fearing us or worrying about what we're thinking. But this is what happens. They feel overwhelmed. The stress of dealing with it can cause, it's more than they can handle. They don't know how to get away from it because it's 24/7. And they're constantly thinking when they go out, oh my God, this person also must have read that. This person also must have read that. They also must think that I'm like this. And what does that do to them? It makes them feel dissatisfied with who they are. It gives them mental health issues like anxiety and depression. And we see so much anxiety and depression out there. And you know what? Cyberbullying doesn't just happen in teens, by the way. It also happens with adults. A very good friend of mine had just posted a picture, like an art, she paints. So she just copied somebody's painting online, and she posted it because she was just trying art and she was excited to share it with everybody. So that artist who saw that was like, oh my God, who are you? How dare you copy me? And she said that this is a replica of somebody's picture and I'm just trying it out. And she was like, how dare you copy? And then she had posted it on HMG. Who's heard of HMG? Nobody? The Houston Muslim group. She posted on that, and then all these people started posting all these things underneath it, like, oh my God, who are you? You're painting so bad. Why are you doing this? You should never paint. You should never do this. All of this stuff. I called Bibi Khan, and I told her, please cut this off because I know this person, and she was able to do that, but that person did not paint again for a whole year. She was so traumatized. It seems like something small. Like, who knows about this whole barbecue tonight stuff that's going on? Right? These things that happen, and you post it, and then everybody follows. They think they have to comment. They have to say something, whether they know about it or not. Oh yeah, the food sucks. Oh yeah, this happened. What is this if it's not bullying? I'm telling you, Desis, whether Arabs or Pakistanis or anybody, we love judging. And we love making our assumptions and posting it on there that this is what we think and this is the truth. And it rarely is. And the worst thing, the effect of cyberbullying, is feeling suicidal. Because kids, when they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go, this is what they do. I know a few years ago, there was this Muslim boy who killed himself, his brother, his grandmother, and his family. I don't know if you guys were aware, it was a few years ago. And he posted a letter online, a suicide note of why he was killing himself. And in that, it included how he had been bullied and how people had made him feel low beneath himself. Even though he was so smart, he was at UT Austin. He said he had gotten, good friends, people who he thought were popular. But it ended up messing up with his brain, and he ended up doing something so severe. So the reason why we were bringing this to you is not to scare you or put fear in you, but to help you understand the severity of the situation so you can sit down and talk to your family. Sit down and talk to your kids, or kids, sit down and talk to your parents. What platforms are you on? And if they come and tell you that something's happening, don't just cut off their online presence. Oh my God, you're not going, I'm taking your phone away. I'm doing this. They're never going to come to you again, and that doesn't solve anything. You have to learn to understand where they're coming from. Help them with their social presence. Help them, make them good digital citizens. Okay. And another thing that we need to do is, if you see somebody, because as a community, we have to save our children, and we have to save ourselves. We have to make sure that we're strong. So you need to have bystander intervention. What is that? If you see somebody, one of your friends, being trolled online, or being, abused online, or somebody says mean things to her, what do? Tell me, guys. Kids, come on, tell me, what do? Do you stand up for her? Or do you just stay silent? Excellent. Excellent. You need to. You need to take responsibility. You need to, because your voice can make the biggest difference on what happens to that child or what happens to that girl. Or even let them know, hey, I'm with you. Even if you don't know her that well. Hey, what's happening is not okay. I'm with you. Make them feel supported. Okay, what to do if your child is a victim of cyberbullying? First of all, don't respond to the bully's messages. You're giving in to them, right? The reason why often bullies do things is because they seek reactions from people. So don't give it to them. Block the bully. And every media site has a way to block the bully, right? Or block anybody you want. Whether it's your phone, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook. So block the bully, block your phone. Make sure that there's a reporting method everywhere. Make sure they're reported. So what do? Take screenshots. Sometimes people can delete things. Take screenshots of what's happening and make sure that you report it. And keep evidence of all the communication. Print it out, take screenshots, make sure that there's evidence. Because you want to make sure that people are held accountable for what they do. Don't think that, oh my God, the popular kids are not going to like me. I'm going to be said, this is what's going to happen to me. No, you have to understand that this can really ruin your mental health. It can really cause, I have a personal example of my own daughter had gone through bullying, cyberbullying. And it was so bad that she would not leave the house. And she got diagnosed with depression. And I had no idea what's going on. I didn't know any of this stuff. This was like 7 years ago. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to handle this situation. And I was like, well, okay, so if these people are saying anything, why does it matter to you, Bita? It's okay. Let them, whatever. You just turn it off. You just shut it off and you don't worry about it. But guess what? Did that happen? Did she not worry about it? No, she did. She constantly thought about it until the fact that she thought that she was not good for anything. And she just locked herself in her room. And slowly, when she started talking to me, I gave her that safe space. I was like, you know what? Forget everything. You have to talk to me. Don't worry. Nothing bad will happen. I will not take your social media away. I will not take your phone away. Just tell me what's happening. And slowly, we went through what was happening. We talked to the parents of those friends or whatever, and she started getting new friends, and we went through a whole situation. But it had to start with listening to her first, right? Accepting that something's happening. It's not just, oh, it's okay, she's going through a phase, she's a teenager, it's okay. No. Yes, teenagers go through phases, but you need to be there with them to understand what they're going through and how you can help. Support your child emotionally. Let them know their safety and emotional well-being are your biggest priorities. I'm telling you, I wish I had not waited that year before I realized. Because at that time, her self-esteem was so shattered that even when I came and I listened and, I had to get her medication and I had to get her therapy and everything, before she actually learned to be in herself and understand that those people were wrong. That wasn't true what they said. It didn't form or shape who she was. But if I had known before that, maybe I should have understood what's going on her digital platform. Maybe I should have asked her before her self-esteem was shattered. So it's never too late to understand what's going on. And consider getting help, talking to the parents of the children, and if it involves threats and your child feels unsafe, then go to the police. The reason why I'm sitting here talking about this is because I understand, because I've been through it. And I'm telling you guys, even though it's embarrassing for me to admit it, but I'm telling you guys so that it doesn't happen again. Or even if it has happened, that you can minimize that impact and make sure that your child is strong and a good digital citizen, that they're empathetic, that they're kind, that they know how to deal with these situations when it happens to them. Okay, so that's my part. I'm going to hand it off to Sami, to Brother Sami, to do the next part.
When she was talking about, parents react, I remember reading something online, which I thought was quite hilarious. The dad's talking to his son and he goes, well, talk to me as a friend. I'm your friend. I'm here for you whenever you need anything. He goes, I do. When I talk to you as a friend, then you turn into a dad, all right? So parents always try to befriend their kids, and without realizing, that's something we culturally see a lot, where we try to friend our kids, and then once we kind of find out, we get very irritated and angry on why they're in that situation to begin with. So let's listen to listen and not let's listen to react. That's something that we commonly see happen, and that's what kind of makes some of these cyberbullying situations worse. Uh, there's plenty of times, what sister was talking about, there's plenty of times where we've seen cases get really, really bad in cyberbullying situations. From depression to lifelong PTSD can go into their adulthood and then can affect their future generations as well, if not resolved. But some of the other topics that are a little more becoming a bigger issue within the city and county that we're sitting in, we're going to kind of go step by step that we're noticing not only within just the Muslim but the minority communities. Cyber grooming is number one thing that's been happening a lot. A lot of kids are starting to get groomed because within immigrant families, we're noticing that parents are a little more restrictive. They're obviously not well versed of the environment that the kids are in. They're unsure of what kind of freedom the child should have when they move here. So you start noticing kids becoming very, very distant from their parents. Now remember, grooming is not just about being trafficked, it's about being exploited, being sexually abused as well. Unfortunately, Houston is number one in the nation when it comes to human trafficking. And so we're going to talk about different factors that eventually lead to trafficking. And so types of grooming might be they form a mentor that's somebody other than their parents or their brothers. They find an authority figure who might be, too off or too lenient and starts guiding them by letting them know that your parents are too restrictive on what you're doing, or they're just a dominant figure that have some sort of control or a voice over your child or an adult. Now, are kids being groomed online? Yeah, they're also being groomed in person. So some of the things I'll always say is watch out for what they're developing. If you're noticing your sons and daughters have new friends who came out of the blue, if you start noticing patterns that didn't exist before, as parents, we're so busy working, we kind of overlook those things at home. But we should be watching if our child starts kind of distancing, themselves from us. This goes both way, right? Kids, it also goes for you if you start noticing that your friend is no longer hanging out with you. He's no longer part of your group, and he's just starting to meet this one person who just came to school, and now he's no longer interested in being your friend. So I think both sides should kind of keep a watch on this. There's a process that a groomer goes through. A lot of people assume that grooming happens overnight in a few days. We've seen cases where the groomer was working on people for 5-6 years before they were able to groom and then trigger them to, push them away from their parents. They might start as early as, actually a recent case, the groomer was a 14-year-old girl who was actually getting paid $100 a girl that she kind of converted over within the school. And so if you think about it, you have somebody who's a freshman is actually doing the process of grooming. She had been groomed to groom other girls into this cycle, and then eventually it led to arrest of 20 different people that were in that process. So a grooming process is usually very standard. You'll have these adults who'll identify somebody who's vulnerable, a single mom. You might have a single girl who's immigrated from another country, a child who has a little too much leniency or freedom. And then they start gaining their trust slowly. That gaining trust starts, hey, your parents are too restrictive, mine are super nice, come hang out at my place. And then eventually one day your kid's hanging out with them and you're like, oh, well, it's a good friend, I'm not gonna worry about it. They fill in a need that you're not, a need that you're not present, you're not available to them easily. They start isolating them. And once they've kind of isolated them, they either criminalize that situation or they get sent into trafficking or various sexual acts. And then once they kind of have a control of it, it's really hard to get these cases back. We've seen cases where we have rescued people, pulled them out of the system, put them in safe house, and a few weeks later, you find out that person's back on the street, the person's back in the clutches of the groomer, because that's how they've been kind of brainwashed. They think it's a normal piece of life. Their self-esteem is so low. What we're talking about cyberbullying. So cyberbullying is a great tactic for a lot of these groomers to kind of drop your child or an adult's self-esteem down, and then they start the process of kind of grooming them through that process. Now, what does that kind of lead to when it comes to grooming? Before I go into the next one, I've a couple of very interesting questions. What do you guys think is the, most sellable drug on the street? Anything? Marijuana is one. Anybody else? Well, marijuana is weed. Go ahead, somebody in the back. Cocaine, all right? So cocaine is one of the most sellable drugs. But in technical terms, if if you look at what was the most profitable street business, you'd think it's cocaine on how much money it generates. It's not. In Houston, the most sellable business on the streets is a human body because you can actually profit from it over and over and over again. Uh, Unfortunately, the stats pretty bad, but you can actually buy someone off the street for $1,000. All right.
Is this happening to Muslims?
It's happening to Muslims as well. You see these cases a lot in the younger generation. But if you think about a human body's value, for $1,000, they're sold, one time, but that person over their life might be sold 40 to 50 different times. And that's what we kind of don't realize. So for dealers who are on the street, human body is the most profitable business. So when the pimp has hold of him and he has 5 or 6 women with him, he might be generating millions of dollars a year off those 5 or 6 girls' bodies over and over. And again, I'm using girl as an example because it's a common case we see, but it works both ways that we do. And so it is, unfortunately, when we talk in street language, it's the profitable business to have. And so one of the things we're kind of seeing cyber grooming lead into is what we're seeing a lot nowadays. What are some of the popular games you kids play? What are some of the good ones? Fortnite, Roblox, right? So Fortnite, Roblox, I guess you guys nailed it. One of the things to kind of watch out for is a lot of grooming's actually happening on Roblox. It's actually happening on Fortnite. Two different issues that we're noticing. Roblox, you'll notice more where kids will actually engage with somebody or they'll bully your child by beating them over and over and over in a level. You notice that in the Minecraft as well, where they'll actually target that kid over and over, and then now your kid's being bullied in this virtual game, and they actually start taking it, starts taking a physical effect on them. One of the other things we notice in Fortnite, parents don't realize if your child makes an online threat and it's a credible, and FBI takes it as a credible threat. So what's been happening in Fortnite is they might put an image of a religious site like Kaaba, and kids might blow it up. But now you have young Muslim kids who get really angry at this, and they say, I'm going to come to school tomorrow and kill you, or I'm going to bomb your house. And next morning, you have FBI knocking at your door. Not only is that kid in trouble, but you're in trouble as parents for him making that threat. And it's in a very gray space. So some of the cases that we've seen that in, the judges are actually making an example out of not just the kid, but the parents as well getting punished for their kid making those threats online. So it's good for us to have that chain of communication when the kids are very, very young. Roblox is something to start very young. Build that trust with them so they feel comfortable when somebody makes that threat to them or blows something up in front of them in a religious site. They're able to come share those feelings with you and chat with you about it and discuss what they're feeling openly. So they have an avenue to go to get that off their chest. And they're not using language they shouldn't be online. And I have a lot of parents that say, well, I'm going to go home and shut down Roblox account and Fortnite. Well, that's not going to solve the problem. The way to solve the problem is to have that trust level where they feel comfortable coming to you so you don't have to do that. All right, taking things away from them is not going to resolve the situations. Again, Fortnite, we've actually seen within Fortnite, I know not me personally, but I know the FBI office in Houston has caught a lot of cases of ISIS and Taliban on Fortnite where they'll actually be playing the games from overseas and they're actually trying to radicalize kids here to take actions in schools and stuff. Same way when young adults play, they will groom them over certain servers over the years until they're able to get these kids to take their passports and fly to Afghanistan and other countries. So radicalization is actively happening within our community, especially within the Muslim community. And so it's our job as parents to kind of know what the kids are doing. If you see that they're chatting with someone, ask them who that person is. Why are they on a random server? So you need to monitor what kind of things they're doing. Again, with heavy emphasis, snatching the thing away from them is not going to solve it. They'll find other avenues to get back on. So make it your, a lot of parents will come to us and say, well, social media is so difficult. I'm not going to get on TikTok. The learning curve's too high. Well, it's our job as parents, to know those things and be educated as well on how to kind of navigate those platforms. Now, kind of getting into a little bit of a tougher topic that's been increasing a lot. This has actually, statistically, sexting sextortion has gone up tenfolds during COVID within Houston. And it's a very simple thing. It's you sending something illicit to another person who's a minor or an adult. That might be a nude picture of yourself. That might be a picture that you might not share publicly. And then sharing those, images can actually incriminate you depending on who you're sending it to. And some of the facts, 5% of teens, number of teens have been victims of sextortion. Sextortion basically means you send somebody a picture and then now they start blackmailing you for that picture. Send me more pictures or I'm going to do this. Send me more pictures or I'm going to tell your dad. 1 out of 3 victims tell their parents, and only 8%, of that number reported to any sort of cops. Most parents just delete it and tell their kid to forget it. What they don't realize it, now that kid went from sharing that information with you and now he starts getting bullied by that person. So you go back into this effect of cyberbullying, grooming, and then the chain kind of continues. You'll notice in the younger boys, it happens more. One of the most common cases that I've been dealing with is where a young boy will think it's somebody in school, it's a pretty girl, he already has low self-esteem. They're telling him how handsome they look, how good they look, and they might send him, a shirtless picture. But now it turns out it's somebody in Nigeria that's 50-year-old, and they start telling them, well, I either put this, picture out to, your school and your friends and your parents, or you start sending me $500. Well, the kid goes, how am I going to get $500? They'll figure out parents have Cash App, Amazon, or something. They'll send the $500 one time. Then it happens again. So in a very common case, a prominent case I dealt with very recently, it was the kid sent over $2,500 before the mom was like, wait a minute, it was $2,500 missing from my bank account. Oh, it's Cash App transaction, went on Cash App. What's this? Now, both of the parents were public figures, so the groomers and traffickers that were extorting them found this information. Now they stopped blackmailing the kid. They went after the parents, start blackmailing them for big money. Good thing, unlike some other parents who have actually paid $30, $40, $50,000 to these traffickers online, the parents actually decided to pick up the phone and call me. We took the case, FBI got involved. Within minutes, they were starting to block the IP address and start figuring out who these people were, traced it back to Nigeria. They put a halt on all the IP so those guys couldn't contact the parents or the child ever again. Parents took the child, put him on therapy to kind of help him with these problems. But while this process was going on, the child was so afraid that the mom found out that he started deleting everything. He started deleting all the information, the photos and stuff. A lot of kids and adults don't realize that social media accounts are required to keep data for a number of years under the data policy. Some platforms will keep your data. Snapchat, people say, I sent a photo, it got deleted. It lives in some server for the next 4 to 5 years. So if they get sued, they have that proof that that chain of command happened. So when we think we sent something, it got deleted within 24 hours, it did not. Somebody saw it one time on WhatsApp, it got deleted, it did not. It lives somewhere out there where people still have access to it. We know of cases within, sex and sextortion where some people are still getting haunted for the photos they sent 10, 15 years ago. And they're still being, followed because the photo went kind of viral. Now different traffickers get a hold of it. Now they start abusing that person all over again for that process. So, rather than face that, it's better that we do preventative measures now than have to deal with, what do you do once it's online. Why is it so dangerous? People forget this. nothing you put online is ever private. And somebody has access to something. A very good stat of that is how many people have Facebook? I'll just use as an example, older platform. Facebook, number of people do. Facebook, just in general, for you being a user, tracks a lot of advertising data, your web data and stuff. Everybody that's a member of Facebook, they have anywhere from 50,000 to 200,000 data points on you as a user of Facebook. Right? So there's a lot of information about you that just exists on these platforms that can be sabotaged or taken. Mental health is least of concern. You know, that's going to happen, but you start ending up ruining your life because you're beating yourself over this. Then there's legal consequences on who's, again, sending the photo. Are you an adult sending it to a minor, or are you a minor sending it to an adult? Plus, if you're sending it to somebody, you know, across the state, or are you sending it to, you know, Nigeria? Now it's a federal crime. So these crime levels kind of go up. So we have a very good case study. Sally who's 13, she sends a explicit photo to Jonathan, who's 15. Should Jonathan share it with his friends? What should Jonathan do once he got it? Delete it, right? That's a good answer. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, his friends find out that he has a photo of Sally that he shouldn't have, and they all want to see it, and they swear they're never going to share it with anybody. Okay? Will they keep it to themselves? Can Jonathan trust them? No. Well, Jonathan decided to send it to his friends. So while he was 15, ended up with 2 years of probation and had to register as a lifelong sex offender, according to the judge. Right? So he kind of ended up ruining his life at a very young age. All he had to delete when he got that photo was delete it instantly and let his parents know, so they were aware of the situation as well. Number two, very, very simple. Similar story to what I was talking about earlier. This is becoming very, very common within Muslim community. Low self-esteem is actually getting a lot of people in trouble. Guys will send photos, but what Sister was talking about, girls will send photos to guys. You never know who's behind that phone. So more commonly, what we've noticed during COVID, since everybody was kind of inside, everybody was online, the threats, extortion, blackmail is becoming very, very normal. One of the talks I did, I'm not going to name the masjid, but one of the talks we did for An-Nisa on a similar topic, we were just talking about this and told the parents it's as simple as going to the FBI's website or any of the law enforcement websites and just reporting it. They take over the case, they assign a case manager from law enforcement side and try to help the parents out in that situation. And two young girls, 12-year-old, walked up to us after, and they were actually contemplating group suicide, both of them, because they were so afraid to go to their parents. They were just so worried what the parents might do to them. Alhamdulillah, it turned out to be opposite. The parents were actually so supportive, not only got them to help, not only got the guys apprehended, you know, it became a very positive situation, but it never ends that way. You know, so that one haunted me for a few weeks, you know, when I was thinking what would have happened if I had canceled that day, if I had not gone and spoken that day, if we had not talked about these issues that day, we might not have those two childs, you know, in today's realm. Another case study, Michael Lucas Chancellor, one of the craziest cases that I've seen. Michael reaches out again to another young lady, finds an explicit photo of her. He starts telling her multiple times, hey, send me more photos. She sends him 5, 6 photos. It gets to a point where he tells her, if you don't send me more photos, I'm going to go ahead and send this to your parents. He got the parents' phone numbers. So now she's really afraid. Got to a point where she was sending him 60 photos to video a day. One girl. And one day her mom noticed on her birthday, she's not, you know, all her friends are here. Where is she? She's in the restroom. He told her she can't go outside to her birthday party. She needs to send him more photos or he's going to send this over to everybody. Mom busts in the restroom, sees she's doing this, figures out what's happening, calls the FBI. It turns out there was one guy who was simultaneously doing it to 350 girls, victim, one person. And only 240 are known so far by the feds on who the victims are. There's about 105 that are still missing. that we don't know any information on who the victims might have been. Their faces weren't tagged, and so this is just one person. And if you just look at, goes all the way from United States to London to Canada with his cases. But you have people like this out there who are, willing to do anything to sabotage a human life. They don't care about a human life. So it's our job to take some of this information and make sure that we're, not only sharing with our neighbors, but our families, and educating ourselves in this digital age. And again, to wrap it up in the last few minutes, emphasis on the fact, human body is something that needs to be protected. Even Allah tells us that, in the Quran. And we need to do a better job of not only taking care of ourselves, but our neighbors, people around us. So it's our job to educate ourselves, look for resources, and then share them. And to wrap it up, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about being responsible citizens.
Yes, so each one of us, I hope that you learned something today that you're going to take home and implement. But more importantly, each of us should try to be better, responsible citizens online. How do we become responsible digital citizens? If you wouldn't say it in person, guess what? Don't say it online. I know it's easier. You don't have to see the other person's face. You don't have to see their reactions. You don't have to see the effects of what you're saying. But you have to be responsible. Do not say it online if you wouldn't say it in person. And understand what you do online can last a lifetime. When you go for a job, when you go for college scholarships, they check your social media. When you go for a job, they're going to check your social media. Social media is the one biggest determinant of whether you're going to get that job or whether you're going to get that scholarship. And we don't even understand that or realize that. They will see our digital footprint. Build empathy and resilience in your children, in yourself. What does resilience mean? If something bad happens, somebody says something bad, learn to come out from it. How do I solve this? Not, oh my God, this is happening to me, I'm just no good, I'm nobody. No, you have to learn how to deal with it. You've gotten tips and tricks here. Understand, what do I do? What do I need to do to become better? What do I need to do to get out of this situation? Should I tell my parents? Should I tell the principal? Should I tell a counselor? Tell somebody. And you don't have to be cyber savvy. People tell me, oh, I don't know anything about, does anybody know anything about Finstagram? It's the fake Instagram, Finsta, or do you know all of these different digital, apps that are out there? We don't, but we can learn about them, and we can still teach our children to be good digital citizens. We can teach our children to come to us if anything happens, and we can teach our children the consequences of what can happen, right? Regardless of what platforms they're on. Most importantly, teach by example. If we're going to be good digital citizens, we're going to make sure that we are doing whatever we can to help others. Our children are going to do the same. We are living in a digital world today. We can't put it under the rug and think that, oh, everything is going to solve itself. Yes?
And also don't worry about what people will think. Protect your kids first.
Yes. I know somebody who had a Muslim girl in high school who had her pictures blasted all over. Her parents were the last people to know. And guess what they did when they found out? They tried to bury it under the rug. They got mad at her. They didn't solve the situation. Her pictures were online. They didn't try to do anything about that. They just got mad at her, grounded her, sent her to another college out of state, and just completely shut her down. You can't do that. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. What matters is your child. What are you doing to save them, to protect them? Because that's the responsibility Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. Does anybody have any questions, or are we done? Okay. Okay. Thank you.